Hi, I'm Kat and I write under the pen name Katie Reed. This is my January wrap-up video for the books that I read in January. And I'm also going to talk about two books that I read with my kids this month that stood out to me, and I thought it would be fun to talk about it on my channel. This is an AuthorTube channel. I am a writer. I write stories, publish them in books. But I also do a lot of reading. I think that if you are a writer, you're also a reader. And I think to an extent, if you're a reader, you're probably also at least a little bit of a writer. So I don't see the need to separate BookTube and AuthorTube with a super defined line. I won't be talking about writing in this video. I will be talking about the reading that I've been doing. So the first books that I tackled in January were Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, and I tackled that one first because it was kind of a carryover from December. You follow the character of Spencer. Oh, it was a library book, so I don't have it with me anymore because I did have to give it back to the library. But you follow the character of Spencer. She has been labeled a coward, which is very bad in her society. It's a young adult sci-fi, and she wants to go to Flight Academy. She meets with some resistance from the Admiral. I think they're an Admiral. And then you sort of follow her on her, let's see, what would I say that, I think maybe it's a hero's journey. Everworld series by K.A. Applegate. I have finished these two, of the last four, I have finished these two. I have two more to go, which are the two that are standing over here. I'm confident that I can get them finished by the end of January. I'm doing this video a couple days before the actual end of January. By the time this video is posted, it's going to be February. But this is just when I have the time to do it. So that's what I had to do. And the thing is, I am moving through, these are super small, but I'm moving through them a lot slower than I can, and I'll talk about why here in just a second. In the Everworld series, we follow four main characters. We follow David, Christopher, April, and Jaleel, plus a fifth character who she starts out as a side character, and then she kind of moves into being more of a main character, and that is Senna. So we follow them through their day-to-day lives for a little bit, and then they are sort of transported into an alternate dimension. I would almost classify these as a portal fantasy because you spend so much time in this kind of alternate reality space. So when they fall asleep in Everworld, the alternate reality of Everworld, when they fall asleep in Everworld, they wake up in the real world, and their real world bodies are constantly still going on sort of like an autopilot, and then when they come back, they get an update as to what's been happening in real life, and then their real life self gets an update as to what's been happening in Everworld, and usually they're about to die. So it's an interesting set of books. I have enjoyed it, but the reason that I've really slowed up on it is because when you start the series, you start it with the point of view of David, and I don't mind David as a character, but he's not my favorite. And then when you move into the other characters' points of view, I like them better. I think Christopher, he's funny, he's also kind of a racist asshole, so we're following his journey of trying to not be a racist jerk all the time. So he's interesting to follow. And then we have April, who she's a theater nerd, which was partially me in high school, so I kind of identify with her character a little bit. And then Jaleel, who suffers from obsessive-compulsive disorder, and he's an interesting character to follow because he's very analytical and very logical and mathematical. And so this world of Everworld is just something that he's having a lot of trouble coping with. But in book 9, in book 9, you move abruptly into the point of view of Cinna. And although I understand why they had to do this, why K.A. Applegate did this, it makes sense for the story. And I agree with why she did it. And I can't say why because it's spoilers. It was necessary to do it. But with the last 4 books, you had 9, 10, 11, and 12. And I was looking forward to seeing David's, Christopher's, Jalil's, and April's final story, their character arcs come fully around, and then Cinna jumps in, and I feel a little jaded because I was like, well, whose are we gonna miss then? So then you move into book 10, and guess whose point of view we're in? We're back to David. So the other 3 characters that I actually enjoyed following, I don't know that I'm gonna see the rest of them, so this one was really like sludgy, sloggy to get through. And you spend time in like this underwater realm of Neptune, and it was fine, but it wasn't what I wanted to be reading. And it reminded, as I was going through it, I just kept thinking, God, when I play video games, water worlds are the worst. They're the singular worst part of any video game. Zelda game, Mario, doesn't matter what you're playing. If it's the water realm, it is horrible, and I hate being there. Kingdom Hearts, God, the water level in Kingdom Hearts. So going through the water level in Everworld was no different for me, and it's really weird because I'm a Cancer, so you would think water sign would like to go through water worlds. No, absolutely I do not, and I just found it really difficult to get through. So I'm hoping that with the last 2 books, it's going to be a lot easier to plow through it and just finish out this series and see how it all wraps up, because at 12 books, man, I am ready for some closure. Moving on to the next book that I read in January, The Wicked King by Holly Black. We read this as the book of the month for the Hidden Worlds Book Club, which you can find over on Facebook if you're interested in joining us for Queen of Nothing, which we are reading in February. And I have to say, you wouldn't think it by my January TBR, right? Because it's almost all young adult. But I am trying to move more into adult fantasy because I see myself getting frustrated with books like this where we have these super unreliable narrators. And anytime you're in first person point of view, you're going to have an unreliable narrator. I understand that. With The Wicked King, I have found myself finding it I find it difficult to connect with Jude. She is an unreliable narrator, she is naive, and I think in this book she just makes a lot of stupid choices that I can't figure out because she's not a stupid character. She's very cunning, she's very intelligent, and I just find myself frustrated with her constantly. So I'm hoping that in Queen of Nothing we get some better closure, because by the end of The Wicked King, and it's hard to talk about second books without spoilers, so I can't really go into much of it, but I felt like through The Cruel Prince I was just reading and pursuing and pressing on so that I could get some kind of a payoff, and then at the end you kind of get a little bit of payoff. And then with The Wicked King, I was again just like moving through trying to find this payoff for the character, like where is the release for Jude, and so like kind of start to see it come together a little bit. And then by the end of the book I just wanted to throw things because I was so upset. So I'm really, 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 really hoping that with Queen of Nothing, we actually get some closure, and this is why I think I'm going to start moving more away from YA reading, because I just, I left the angst of my teen years behind, and I keep returning to it in books, and I am not so much finding it fascinating anymore. It was fun for a minute, and now I just think it's frustrating because I read through these books with these narrators and I just am going, you're so stupid, why are you doing this? So the last book that I managed to finish in January, in my last video I mentioned that I might try to tack on 10,000 Doors of January because it would be fun to read it in January, and that didn't happen. And I'll tell you why it didn't happen, because I think I could have done it. I was confident that I was going to be able to do it. Whenever I sat down with my planner, like the freak that I am, and started planning through my reading for the month, I was like, yes, I can fit this in. It shouldn't be any problem. Well, we got the flu, and we got the flu hard. We are a household of 6, and so the flu moving through this house took almost 2 weeks. And my husband and I went down after all the kids were better. So, we had this period of time where, like, all the kids were feeling really badly, and me and my husband are really holding on and just trying to keep the house together, and he was doing most of it, if I'm really honest with myself. Because I see he was doing most of it. He was doing, like, the cleaning and the cooking and the taking care of the older kids and, like, kind of doing the nursemaid thing, while with the youngest, he just wants to be, like, on top of me when he's sick, so that was my job. I was the 3-year-old's nursemaid, and he was everyone else's. And then by the time we got everyone else better, he and I went down, and we went down pretty hard for a couple days. And so that's why I didn't do a video last Friday or a video this past Monday, because this past Monday was just me trying to catch up from all the crap that I had fallen behind on because I had the flu. So after we got through with the flu, I just didn't have time to tack on this other book. So the last book that I read in January was The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. And I have to say, I liked it. I really enjoyed it. I made the conscious decision, and I am not a rereader. Once I read a book, I like to pretty well put it down, and I might pick it back up years later. Like I'm rereading Everworld because I didn't finish the series. I have reread Harry Potter because I was a total Potterhead and just wanted to re-immerse myself in the world. It happens, but I made a conscious decision with The Starless Sea that I was going to have to read it again, because there are so many interlocking storylines. It's a story within a story within a story within a story that's being told by a different story. So it was so complex that I just made the conscious decision about halfway through that I was going to just have to reread this book in order to fully comprehend everything that was going on. I still think that's true. I need to recover before I do that, because it was, I wouldn't call it drudgery. It was not drudgery, but it was taxing. Because you have this character, Zachary, that you follow, who he doesn't have a lot of agency. And you see this from the beginning of the book, because he is a child, he sees a door, he thinks maybe it would go to another world, and so he passes it up because he just decides not to do it. And so I feel like Erin Morgenstern uses that as a tool throughout his story, in ways that I cannot mention because it would be spoilers, such that it was okay that he didn't have any agency, but because of that it was difficult to connect with him. I did see a lot of myself in the book. There's a character whose name is actually Kat, and she's a baker, and she likes to play video games, and she's kind of geeky, and I was like, oh, it's almost like Erin Morgenstern wrote me into a book. And by the time we worked our way back around to her point of view, I just didn't care what she was doing anymore. I wanted to know what was happening between Zachary and Dorian. I liked it a lot, but it was so difficult to get through and such a taxing read that by the time I got to the ending was okay, and I was content with it. But I don't know that I did not feel joy at the end of this book. I felt like I needed a nap. So these two books that my children checked out from the library, I found they just stuck out to me. So I thought it would be fun to share them on my channel. The first one is Aglivy. I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing that right. I don't feel like I am, but it's by Deborah Underwood. And it was just so cute, and the entire thing is pretty much just you're allowed to wear what you want, and still do whatever activities that you want. These little bunnies, this bunny here, Ogilvy is probably how you pronounce that. She, he, they don't do genders really in this at all. They move to a different town, and so they're really excited to go and meet all these other bunnies. And they get there, and they're told that whether or not they're wearing a sweater or a dress determines whether or not they're allowed to do things like play baseball, or I think it's like sewing, knitting. So, like, you can play baseball or you can knit, and there's all these activities that you can do while you're at this bunny park, but the only way that you can do them is if you're wearing the appropriate wear of a sweater or a dress. And since Ogilvy has this very neutral dress, this neutral clothing, they sort of just say, well, today I'm wearing a dress, and today I'm wearing a sweater. Today it's a sweater, and today it's a dress. And they keep going back and forth. And by the end of the book, it just, they convince everybody, like, why are we drawing these lines between dresses and sweaters, and why does it matter? Because if we enjoy doing these things, we should just be allowed to do them. And I enjoyed it a lot. My 6-year-old got it nailed on the head whenever we finished the book. He was like, you know what? That book was right. It doesn't matter. If you're a boy and you want to wear a dress and you want to play baseball, you should be allowed to wear a dress and play baseball. I was like, yes, yes, 100% A+. And that was a book from our public library that my 3-year-old picked out. Every week we go to the library. My 3-year-old and I walk up to the library. He picks out 7 books, one to read each day of the week. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's the way I plan it in my head because I'm a freak and I can't do anything unless I plan about it. That was one of the library books that he chose. So the library book that my 6-year-old chose while he was at the library at his school is The Magic Fan, written and illustrated by Keith Baker. So this was a really pretty, and I hope I don't end up getting like in trouble for this, but I wanted to show at least one page of the book because the character finds a magic fan, and then as you're reading through the book, like, you would read this page about what the character is thinking, and then they would look to the fan for answers, and so then you turn the fan over and there's an answer to, like, the person's question. It's like a magic fan of destiny and ideas and inspiration. And it was just a really cute book. I liked the way that it was put together. It was a celebration of Asian culture. It was a celebration of community and how maybe if things aren't working out the way that you think they should, then try a different path and things will come together in the end. And I just thought it was really nice, and I was very happy to see him pick something that wasn't just European culture, because I know that that is absolutely almost all the books that are classically recommended to kids, like Curious George and Dr. Seuss, or Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, are all very white European books, and I was thrilled whenever he brought home a book with the little Asian culture sticker on it. It made me very happy. And then to see the way that the book worked, I thought it was very clever. So those are 2 books that I think you should check out with your kids. If that's something that you think is neat, let me know down in the comments, because I do read to my kids a lot. It's a huge part of my reading, the reading I do with my kids. And if you would like to see more videos recommending books for children, I would love to hear about that from you in the comments below. Have you read any of these books? What are you reading in February? Let's talk books for a bit. Thanks for checking out my channel and dealing with the newbie author thing, newbie author tube, newbie book tube. I really appreciate you so much, and I hope that your day is awesome.